The string quartet played Pachelbel's canon as guests mingled in the Sterling Hotel's opulent ballroom. But all I could hear was Madison's piercing laughter slicing through the refined ambience. "Oh my God, Sophia, where did you even find that?" she sneered, circling me like a predator. Her Vera Wang dress swayed dramatically as she gestured dismissively. "Let me guess, one of those Chinese wholesale sites? AliExpress? Wish." I stood perfectly still in my midnight blue gown, watching my stepfamily's ritual of mockery unfold. Humiliate Sophia again. Tyler was already recording on his phone, probably for their group chat dedicated to mocking my fashion attempts. Madison reached out, fingering the delicate beadwork on my sleeve. "Nice knockoff, Madison," I said calmly. "From a distance, the Marchesa looks pretty convincing, but up close? The quality's painfully obvious. Crooked stitching for starters." Brittany chimed in helpfully. "And the color? Real designers don't use that shade of blue." I sipped my champagne, letting their words roll off me like water over stone. 3 years of this, since my mom married their dad and I was still enduring their jabs. My fashion degree? Worthless. My internships? Dress-up games. My industry contacts? Imaginary friends. Tyler zoomed in on my face, voice mocking. $50, 100? Come on, Sophia. Tell us, how much did you spend trying to look like you belong here?" Their mother, Patricia, called out from her table, "Leave her alone," but she didn't stand up. He never did. Confronting Harrison Sterling's kids risked jeopardizing her new marriage, and she'd made her priorities clear. Madison, smiling sweetly, said, "We're just having fun, Patricia. Besides, someone needs to teach Sophia about quality. She's embarrassing herself." The bride, her college roommate, drifted over in a genuine designer gown. Madison continued, "It's kind of sad, honestly. I mean, I get trying to follow the dress code, but there's a difference between formal and fake. I've seen this exact dress on Marchesa's website." Brittany pulled out her phone. "The real one? $8,000. No way a scholarship student like you could afford that." They were right, I couldn't. As a recent graduate scraping by on ramen and dreams, I'd spent 6 months hand-beating this dress during my internship, staying late in the studio, learning from the best. Madison, emboldened by the crowd, laughed. "She probably spent her whole savings on that fake, thinking we wouldn't notice. Thinking she can fool us into believing she's more than just some kid my dad took in." I quietly warned, "Madison, you might want to." "What?" she snapped, laughing again. "Honey, I work at Neiman Marcus. I know fashion. That dress is as fake as your pretend job at that design house you keep talking about." A smooth voice as calm as aged whiskey cut through her rant. "I like your dress. I made it exclusively for her." Madison's champagne flute slipped from her fingers, shattering on the marble floor as she spun around. Standing there in a perfectly tailored tuxedo was Alessandro Marchesa himself. His silver hair gleamed under the chandeliers, and his dark eyes held a cool amusement as they fixed on Madison. "What?" Madison's face turned the exact shade of the spilled champagne at her feet. "Regarding the dress," Alessandro said, stepping beside me, "you were discussing my work, yes?" "Yes," I managed, voice trembling slightly. "But I must point out. The stitching is intentionally asymmetrical," he interrupted smoothly. "It's part of my new collection's theme of beautiful imperfection. And that shade of blue? It was specially mixed to match Sophia's eyes. It took 3 attempts to get it right." The room had fallen silent, save for the quartet, who now looked frozen as if unaware they'd become statues. Tyler's camera shook in his hand. Alessandro kissed both cheeks of Tyler, who looked starstruck. "Sophia's +1, Tyler announced, voice shaky. Though she tried to come alone, she said she didn't want to overshadow the bride." He winked at the bride, who looked ready to faint. "I insist," Alessandro continued. "How often does my favorite protégé wear one of our collaborative pieces in public?" Madison's mouth opened, choking on her words. "Collaborative," she blurted. "Oh yes," Alessandro said casually, accepting a fresh champagne flute from a stunned waiter. "Sophia interned with me last summer. Didn't she mention it?" Brittany looked skeptical. "No. We thought she was lying." Alessandro's gaze sharpened. "Tell me, do you often dismiss people based on assumptions? Because in my industry that kind of blindness is career-ending." He turned to the bride. "Stunning dress, by the way. Vera Wang, if I'm not mistaken." I showed with her in Milan that year. But between us, he stage whispered, Sophia's dress is more interesting. One-of-a-kind pieces always are. I didn't say anything. My mother finally rose, voice faint. She never said she was working with you. Because you never asked, I said softly. Every time I tried to mention my internship, Madison would interrupt with stories about folding sweaters at Neiman Marcus. When I mentioned Paris Fashion Week, Tyler accused me of making it up. When I spoke of meetings with buyers, Brittany laughed, asking if I meant selling clothes on Instagram. Madison whispered, He's your... Alessandro, smiling proudly, interrupted. He's your what? Your dress-up doll? I've dressed Beyoncé. Now, Sophia, he gestured to me. She's dressing celebrities soon enough. Have you seen her portfolio? No one responded. Such achievements should be celebrated, Alessandro said softly, turning to the bride. You should have told us about her connections. I did, I whispered. At your engagement party. You told me to stop pretending and suggested I look into retail, like Bergdorf Goodman. Alessandro's smile was amused. They're offering her a top package to join their buying team, but I hope she'll accept my offer instead, as a junior designer at Marchesa. We could use her unique perspective. Madison made a sound like a cat stepped on. Bergdorf Goodman was her dream. She's been rejected twice. Alessandro extended his arm. Shall we? Dinner is being served and I'd love to hear about your plans for the sustainable collection. Natural dyes, yes. As we moved toward our table, now upgraded to a prime spot by the frantic wedding planner, I heard Tyler's voice behind us. Did he say junior designer at Marchesa? Madison hissed, voice sharp with alarm. But it was already too late. Half the wedding guests had their phones out, capturing the moment when fashion royalty had claimed me as his own. By morning, the story would be everywhere. How the Sterling sisters had mocked a dress designed by Alessandro Marchesa himself, worn by his newest protégé. Dinner became an exquisite but torturous display for my stepfamily. Alessandro held court at our table, sharing stories from Fashion Week, dropping names like breadcrumbs, each one making Madison shrink further into her chair. He made a point to loudly praise my work, mentioning specific pieces and achievements I'd been too modest to share myself. The way you solved the structure problem in the mermaid gown, he said, gesturing with his fork. Brilliant. After 30 years in design, I'd never considered that approach. It was just physics, I said softly, catching Madison's eye. Physics and poetry, Alessandro corrected. The best fashion requires both. He gestured toward the constellation-inspired beadwork on my dress. Like those patterns based on stars visible from my mother's garden. The night she told me she was remarrying, I let that sink in. I spent hours there, wondering if I'd finally find the family I'd always wanted. The silence at our table was deafening. Art born from pain, Alessandro murmured. The most beautiful kind. When the music shifted to a waltz, Alessandro extended his hand with old-world charm. You know, he said as we danced, I only came because you sounded so sad on the phone. But this is better than any runway show. You're terrible, I teased, laughing. Madison might never recover. Good, he said with a grin. Anyone who doesn't see your worth deserves a little humiliation. He spun me gracefully, though I wasn't lying about the job offer. When can you start? I asked, breathless. Monday, he replied. We'll announce it at the gala next week. The one your stepsisters won't be invited to, despite their sudden interest in being your best friends. When we returned to the table, Madison was there, clutching a new drink, wearing a desperate smile. Sophia, she cooed, we're so proud of you. Remember how I always encouraged your fashion dreams? No, I said simply. I don't. Tyler cleared his throat. So, about that sustainable collection. I know some influencers who might want to promote it. They're the same ones you told I was a delusional wannabe last month, I said quietly. Alessandro chuckled, a rich, warm sound that drew everyone's attention. Sophia, darling, you didn't mention your family was so entertaining. We should invite them to Italy sometime, he added. Show them where you've been spending 60 hours a week perfecting your craft, while they thought you just played dress up. Brittany softly whispered, We're sorry. We didn't know. That's right, I said, standing to leave. You didn't know because you didn't want to know. You saw what you wanted, Someone to mock, someone to feel superior to. The saddest part? I would have shared everything. The late nights, the breakthroughs, the dreams woven into every stitch. But all they saw was a knockoff dress, not the future I had fought to create. We left them sitting there, swallowed by shame and shattered illusions. As Alessandro and I waited for the car, he squeezed my hand gently. You know, he said softly, I've been in fashion for decades. I've seen cruelty masquerade as criticism, jealousy dressed as concern, but I've never seen anyone handle it with such grace as you did tonight. I had a good teacher, I replied. You told me that the best revenge is success worn well. He smiled. Did I? Well, tonight proved something else. That true style isn't about labels or price tags. It's about wearing your truth with confidence, even when everyone around insists it's fake. My phone buzzed incessantly. Texts from Madison begging for introductions, Tyler asking about tickets to Fashion Week, Brittany hoping for an interview at Bergdorf Goodman. I turned it off and slipped into the car, leaving their desperate messages behind. 3 years of mockery could never be erased by one night of revelation. But at least now they knew the truth. While they'd been laughing at my fake designer clothes, I'd been learning to make real ones. And tomorrow I would start designing a collection that would show the world what Sophia, the scholarship girl, the stepsister, the girl in the knockoff dress, could truly achieve.